Oleksiy Matsuka is the head of the Donetsk Institute of Information, the well-known journalist and the founder and organizer of the Donbas Media Forum, which is already taking place for the fourth time. It was already in Kiev, Mariupol, Slavyanogorsk, and now in Kharkiv. And the media you are running is trying to explain the situation both on the front line, on the smaller towns. That's what the most important we can have when you have the journalist working on the ground, but as well on the occupied territories. So if we have, if you're speaking to the general public, what are the most crucial issue at this point for the people living on the frontline zone and also on the occupied territories? It could be different, but what you know from your journalistic expertise.
Now people live in occupied territory as usual life. They build, they systems how they can survive on these conditions, how Russia supports them, and local businessmen build these bridges between economy of occupied territories and Russia Federation. And as we say about the people who live in so-called gray zone, they, of course, it's minority groups who live under attacks every day, but it's really minority because people relocated from these risk zones every day, but they feel that there are their homes and they want to come back, but near 50,000 people who live in the gray zone now, and they sometimes when we ask them about what you need more in our information materials and what maybe something special materials, they said that it is information without politicians' opinions. From the media, from our media, and for example for Grey Zone, people always ask me when all this finish and what will be tomorrow. What maybe who think in Western countries about it? It's the most question that I heard on the cross line and checkpoints that I visit when I visited.
But for instance, if we speak about the audience who would like to know what's going on in Donbas, what would you answer?
You know that national politicians, they ignore Donbas questions in their programs, and Donbas now it's very toxic object for domestic political questions, and a lot of politicians use this in their populism and campaigns for voters. It's not a question number one in national agenda today, because voters who live in Donetsk and Luhansk, they lost their right to vote, and because if you don't have a special document about your status IDP and you live in occupied territory and before elections you can't vote, but you continue save your status and your right to vote, but you can't do this. So national politicians, they ignore usually people who live on that.
If we speak about the occupied territory, what can people know about what's going on there at this stage? Besides, yes, there are the separatists who are running this territory. Yes, there are the threats to, get arrested. Yes, there is no Ukrainian currency there. The region is becoming more and more isolated.
I think that people concerned about the links with Ukraine because it's very important for them to save this connection. Because if you want to build your future in Donetsk, for example, a lot of people who go to Russia and try to get these documents from Russia Federation as a Russia citizenship. But I think that a lot of people who want to continue their links with Kiev and Ukraine, but it's very difficult today. You know that you should spend 5-6 hours on the checkpoints in the queue when you want to cross this. Also, you should give some proofs that you not support and you didn't support referendum 4 years ago. And I think people concerned about it, how they can, how they can feel more comfortable in their relations with Ukrainian authorities, because you know that our society separate and our politicians also separate on these questions. What the future of Donbas? Is it necessary to reintegrate this territory, or we can separate it from Ukraine and other? So I think people afraid that Kyiv forgot about Donetsk and Luhansk city and proposed to Moscow to organize their lives on that side.
There was a decision of the DPR tribunal regarding you. So what's that? I mean, there is no kind of surprise that the separatist leaders or like these people are accusing the journalists who are reporting on what's going on, even like when you're living on the Ukrainian government-controlled territory. So what this decision means, what's that?
It's decision for me that they imprisoned me for 3 years. But for me, you know, I can't say that it's very something that I can afraid this or that it's very seriously, because I think it's also step in their domestic propaganda for their audience, because they want to, you know, to create on me this logo that I am as an enemy for their state, for their people, for this idea and others. And I think that authorities, self-proclaimed authorities, they just afraid us as an independent journalist, and they try to create these possibilities for our difficulties, because you know, people who collaborate with us in Donetsk and Luhansk cities, they saw this decision and they think maybe it's not safety for them and others.
We are here at the Donbas Media Forum, and you know, there are a lot of discussion about the journalism during the times of the war in Ukraine. So what are the main trends at this point for the Ukrainian media covering the conflict?
You know that during these 4 years it's always discussion about is it necessary for Ukrainian media, feeling them as a patriotic media or independent media, and this is just black and white reality, I think. This year the main idea of the Donbas Media Forum is new challenges and possibilities for regional media, because regional media are more flexible, they can adopt fast journalist ethic codes faster than national media, for example. We want to speak about these very sensitive themes through these 2 days, and I hope that maybe we get from this positive feedbacks from local media outlets.
Thank you.
Thank you.